Year 4, we are continuing with equivalent fractions today. So remember that equivalent means the same. So we're looking for fractions that look different, but they actually are the same. So here we've got 1/5. So remember the denominator tells you how many parts something is split into, and the numerator tells you how many parts we're looking at. So we want to see if 1/5 is the same as something with two somethings. So if we look here, and I shade in 1/5 of this, and then here, if I shade in 2/10, they are, in fact, equivalent fractions. Now that's me showing you pictorially, but if we look here, if we've got 1/5 and 2 of something, we are going to use our multiplication skills to solve this. So remember the rule I told you about yesterday, whatever you do to the top, you do to the bottom, or whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. So here, I can see that to get from 1 to 2, I'd use my 1 times table. So how many 1s are in 2? 1, 2. So 1 has been multiplied by 2 to get to 2. So all I need to do here is multiply the bottom number, the denominator, by 2, because that's what I've done to the numerator. So 5 times 2 is 10. And then back to the picture, you can see that pictorially they are equivalent fractions. So we've got 1/2 is equal to something tenths. So again, we are using our multiplication. I haven't got two numbers here, so I can't find out what you do to it, but I've got a 2 here and a 10 here. So the number's getting bigger, so it must have been multiplied, and then I'm asking myself, how many 2's go into 10? So you do your 2 times table. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, that's 5. So 2 has been multiplied by 5 to get to 10. So to keep them equivalent fractions, what I need to do is multiply the numerator by 5 to get an equivalent fraction. So what is 1 times 5? Well, it's 5. So 1/2 is equal to, or equivalent to, 5/10. If I multiply the bottom number by 5, so if I knew that 2 goes into 10 5 times, but then I decided to multiply the top number by 6, that would be an equivalent fraction, because whatever you multiply the bottom by, you multiply the top by. So I've got 1/4. Is that equivalent to 1/5? Well, we can work this out by just looking at it. So can you fit 4 into 10? 4, 8, 12? No. So you cannot do an equivalent fraction here. And then we've got here some questions, and we're looking at 1/5 being equal to how many tenths. So in your work today, you'll have some questions like this, and then you'll have one that looks like this. This is just showing you how to work it out for the first one, and then you can use this method on some paper to work out the rest. So this method is the method you will be using to answer these questions today. So look, we've got 1/5 is equal to how many tenths? So I've got the fifths and the tenths, so I can work that out at the bottom. So how many 5's go to 10? 5, 10, so that's been multiplied by 2. So because the bottom numbers, the denominator, has been multiplied by 2, then that's what I do to the numerator. So I know that this numerator is 1. If I multiply it by 2, then that will be 2. So 1/5 is equivalent to 2/10. Again, make sure whatever you multiply the bottom by, you multiply the top by. If you have to multiply the top first, then multiply the bottom afterwards. And then we've got here, 2/5 is equal to how many tenths? So if I write 2/5 equals something tenths, I can't work out the numerator because there's a number missing, so I'll have to work out the denominator. So how am I getting from 5 to 10? So how many 5's go to 10? 5, 10, that's 2, so that's being multiplied by 2. And then all I do is multiply the numerator by 2. So 2 times 2, 2, 4 is 4. So 2/5 is equal to 4/10. They're equivalent fractions. And here is 4/5 is equal to how many tenths? So 4/5 equals how many tenths? So again, I can't do the numerator because there's one missing, but I can do the denominator. How many 5s go into 10? 5, 10. So that's times in by 2. It's not always going to be times in by 2, so don't think that's going to be on every question. Then I'm missing the numerator, so what do I do to the 4? I times it by 2, because whatever I've done to the bottom, I do to the top. 4 times 2 is 4, 8. So 8/5 is the same as 8/10. Now, these are your questions today. Look, so you've got question 1A. Now, this here is what you do question 1 in. And then this format, the way that we do this is how you're going to answer these two questions. So I just wanted to help you a little bit on this because it's a bit tricky. We've got 1/4 equals how many 60ths. Now, you need to work out how many 4s go into 60. And at first that might seem tricky, but let's break it down. We know that 10 4s equal 40. And that would mean that we know that 5 4s equals 20. So 5 4s equals 20, doesn't it? 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. So we just put these two numbers together. 10 and 5 is 15. So actually, to get from 4 to 60, you've got to multiply it by 15. So what is 1 times 15? And that will give you the answer there. The reason that we're timesing by 15 is because we're multiplied by 15 on the bottom, so we have to multiply by 15 on the top. Here you've got how many tenths? So you've got 1/10 equals so many 200ths. Now here we need to know how many 10s go into 200. So ask yourself, how many 10s go into 100? And then double that number. And then that will help you work out the missing numerator, because whatever you multiply the bottom by, you multiply the top by. And you can use this on a scrap paper to work out each of the questions. And then here you've got 1/8 equals how many 40ths. Again, that question is modelled for you there for you to fill in, but when you're answering the rest of the questions, you need to do it on some scrap paper using this format that I've just modelled several times to you to be able to answer the questions. Okay, if there's any problems, message us on the blog. If not, have a great weekend and I'll speak to you Monday.